Hi friends, I hope everyone is doing well. The collages in this video are from different play sessions. Some time ago, I decided to start filming these sessions as a record for myself so I can remember techniques and art supplies used. Occasionally, I like to share these videos here on my channel to show my behind the scenes process and to encourage you to find time to play. Remember, not all collages created when playing are masterpieces. It's the process of exploring that's important. Each collage section will have a mix of narration and music, so let's get started with the first collage. I'm painting the ground with Blick's matte acrylic paint in blue light. I tend to like a painted or paper ground, then build the collage on top of it. My plan for this collage is to have an all-over composition with layers of different sized painted papers. I'm working with painted papers in blues, yellows, oranges, and green. I like this section of the yellow painted paper because it has light and dark values in it. It's more interesting than if it was a solid yellow. I'm using a glue stick as the adhesive for all the collages in this video. As you're probably noticing, I'm starting to build the collage using mid-sized papers. My plan is to lay the groundwork for the collage with these papers before coming back in with smaller papers. Also, each paper is slightly overlapping each other. This layout is pleasing to my eye and it helps the flow of the collage, meaning when looking at the finished collage, the viewer's eye will move around the collage. At this point, the collage is looking light in value, so I'm bringing in dark blue paper to start to add contrast. At this point, the collage looks like other collages that I've created, so I decided to bring out a small 3" by 5" gel plate. Instead of adding more dark blue papers, I decided to use a gel plate as a stamp to add dark blue elements. I have tutorial videos on monoprinting on this channel. I'll link that playlist in the description area if you're interested. I'm using Blick's matte acrylic paint in dark blue deep. It's not too opaque, so I thought it would add a nice detail. This stamp image didn't turn out as planned because I used too much paint. The image created with the fork wasn't recognizable, so I'm trying it again without adding more paint, just smoothing out the existing paint on the gel plate. These two images are how I wanted it to look like. Now back to collaging with paper. With the mid-sized papers in place, the next step is to bring in smaller papers. Variety of papers adds interest to the design of the collage. I brought out a Sakura Glaze 3D ink pen to add detail to this yellow paper. Technically, this pen is made for using on glass, metal, and plastics. Since I'm playing, I thought why not see how this pen works on paper. Adding line work design made this yellow paper and this area of the collage more interesting. Also, the pen seemed to work fine on paper. I like how the marks looked on the yellow paper, so I decided to bring out a Posca pen in yellow to add marks to this blue paper. While collaging, I kept thinking about the first dark blue stamp. Since it didn't work out how I had planned, I brought out another Posca pen, this one in light blue. I want to add subtle details that mimics the original design. Once again, I'm painting the ground before collaging. This time I'm using Blick's matte acrylic paint in deep purple. I want to create marks similar to the ones on the yellow paper from the previous collage, but take it a bit further. As you can see, I brought out a metal ruler to line up the marks a bit, but not to make the marks perfect. First, I'm using a Posca paint pen in pink. This pen yields a line that has a medium thickness. The next pen is a Sakura Jelly Roll white pen. This pen yields a thinner line. Playing with the thickness of the line adds interesting detail to the ground. Again, I'm not looking to create a perfect line marks. I want the lines to read as scribbles. My design idea for this collage is to create geometric shapes that are different than ones I have made for previous collages. Again, I'll be starting with large to mid-sized shapes, then add smaller ones on top as accents. I'm thinking of using painted papers that will contrast nicely with the ground. I left in some of the video where I'm trying to decide on the final position of the element before gluing it to the ground. The first position mimicked the direction of the light blue shape above it, so I switched the placement. This is more interesting of a layout. I usually like to make sure the piece of paper that I'm about to cut will fit into the space. Also, when cutting up the paper, I'm thinking about the shape to make sure there's enough of the ground showing through. As I'm collaging, I'm thinking about the placement of the papers. Besides having good contrast, I want the collage to have a good balance of colors, not to place the same color next to each other. There's enough of the large to mid-size papers, so now I'm adding smaller accent colored papers. The orange papers will add a nice contrast to the cool leaning collage. Cutting the orange paper in shapes that aren't perfect squares is adding an interesting detail. I won't be using paint on the ground of this collage. I brought out discarded book pages to use. Instead of gluing one or two large pieces down, I think it's more interesting to use torn edge small pieces. Also, I'm being mindful to glue the papers either upside down or sideways, so it won't be easy to read the text. I don't want the viewer to be distracted by easily read text. The supplies I'm using are packing and washi tape, X-Acto knife with a new blade, small cutting mat, scissors, and a bone folder. I drew a continuous free-form line drawing that will be the template for this collage. I have a video going into detail about this technique. That video is listed in the description area. This collage will be different than the collages made in that video. This one has a paper ground instead of paint. Also, 3 shapes will be completely cut out so the torn book pages will show through inside the collage. You can see that I marked on the template where each painted paper will be placed. Since I marked where the colors will be located, I'm starting to cut one color paper at a time. As I cut the paper, I will review the collage to make sure the color placement is balanced. Even though I planned out the color placement, sometimes I see colors that I need to change as I'm creating the collage. I'm using packing tape to secure the cut painted papers on the back of the template to keep the collage intact, since I'll be cutting away 3 shapes within the collage. The other option is to cut out the papers and place them on the ground. Since I'm trying a different design, I want to make sure the cut papers will line up the way I had planned, so that's why I'm using packing tape. I want to mention an editing note at this point. The process of creating this collage is repetitive, and this design has many shapes that need to be cut out. You'll notice that I have edited out parts of building this collage, but the important sections have been left in, so the process makes sense. If you want a more detailed explanation of this style collage, please check out the dedicated video listed in the description area. The next color I'll be using is light blue. I had to decide how light I wanted to go. For a strong contrast, I went with the lighter of the 2 blues. I decided to go with a darker value green paper. It adds to the contrast against the other colored papers. The only other paper that I would consider as dark value is the dark blue. The red paper, I consider that to be mid-tone. I realized that one of the sides of this cut area is next to the ground. If I left this shape as is, it would change the design of the collage in a way that I didn't want. The solution is to create a small shape next to it that makes sense. I decided that a small red paper would fit into the shape and balance with the other colors in the area. Now back to finishing the green paper sections. Now that all the color paper sections are attached, I'm removing the sections of the collage that will be completely cut out so the ground will show through. I started by using scissors to cut away the template from the collage, but I couldn't easily cut certain areas. I feel like I have more control and could get an accurate cut with an X-Acto knife. In hindsight, I should have left the areas within the collage that were completely cut out until I cut away the template from the collage. The collage wouldn't be so flimsy, so I would have more control over cutting around the collage. The final step is to adhere the collage to the ground. Collage artist Laura Henneforth, who inspired me to use a template when creating this type of collage, suggested lightly scoring the packing tape, then using spray adhesive. I don't have any spray adhesive on hand. It's on my supply list for next time I place an order. I'm using double-sided tape instead. For the final one, I'll be creating a torn paper collage that has 3 smaller collages within it. I made a similar video of this style of collage using cut papers. I'll link that video in the description area as well. First thing, I'm mapping out the areas of each collage with a pencil. Even though I'm plain, I still want to do what I can to make a collage successful. Also, my plan is for it to be mostly light in value. I tend to lean towards mid to dark value collages and collages that have bright colors. I'm using leftover book pages from the previous collage for the lower section and painted papers for the other 2. It's a good idea to have the smaller collage sections mapped out either with a ground of paint or paper. When using this style of design, you need to be mindful of contrast and balance within each small collage as well as the collage as a whole. It can be a bit of a challenge to create a light value collage when it's not your usual style. As we wrap up this video, let's go over what I've learned from creating each collage. As I mentioned when creating this collage, it was turning into a similar design to what I usually create. I wasn't really playing, so by bringing out the gel plate and the pens, I moved into playing mode. The first section using the gel plate as a stamp initially didn't turn out. In real time, it took me a bit of thinking to realize that adding marks with the light blue paint pen makes this element work in the design. I learned that adding elements besides paint and paper helps to make an interesting looking collage. Going forward, I'll incorporate elements such as a gel plate stamp and pens into my collage practice. The marks I made on this yellow paper inspired the ground on the next collage. I have created collages with grounds that have marks, but it was a reminder to do so more often. Also, I like that I played with different geometric shapes than I usually make. I learned to add these types of geometric shapes to future collages. With this collage, I've learned to use other materials besides paint on the ground. It steps up the design. Other things that steps up the design are having more shapes and remove shapes within the collage so the ground shows through. I'm happy with the way this collage turned out. This is another design that I've created previously, but with straight edges and a different color palette. With this collage, I've learned to explore lighter color palettes in my collage practice. I encourage you to play and explore in your art practice. Don't be concerned about having a masterpiece. Think more about the process. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch it. Please let me know if you have any questions. Take care.